Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack and this is your latest Manchester United news. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It's been a few days since we've been live, so delighted to be back. Looking forward to jumping right into it, and we've got plenty of issues to talk about. And as usual with Manchester United, not all of them are good. But you are welcome nonetheless, guys. I hope you do enjoy the show. I hope you get your thoughts into the live chat for us. Please do smash a like on the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel. And like I said, we've got plenty to talk about tonight. We're going to be talking about Ruben Amorim and the fact that he's basically come out tonight and said he's embarrassed about Manchester United's run of games and run of results since he's taken over as Manchester United manager. And what does that mean on the back of what he said, with the defeat to West Ham on the weekend? We'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about, I suppose, why we need to back Amorim, in my opinion, and what does that mean for the upcoming summer transfer window, because we're hearing an awful lot of talks about who could go, who could stay, what type of player we need. And if we are to get these types of players in, then you've got to really stick with Amorim, because it's a very specific type of system that he plays. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We've got updates on Casemiro, guys. Brazil have got a new head coach, a new manager in Carlo Ancelotti, and reports are coming out pretty fast that he is going to recall Casemiro to the Brazil squad. So we'll talk about the implications around that for Manchester United. And Anthony is doing so well, isn't he, over in Spain? A raft of clubs are lining up to try and sign him. So we'll talk a little bit about him as well. But like I said, guys, please do get your thoughts into the comment section below. It helps the channel out an awful lot. Smash the like button. Who have we got in the chat here already? Dylan is in. Story. Jack, mate, how's things been? Good to see you, Dylan. Thanks for joining us. D is in as always. Ruben Amorim, he'll bring the glory days again. We'll back him from the Stretford end. He'll turn the Reds around. I agree, D. I agree. He also says 40 games as of now. Wins 16, draws 9, losses 15, of which 2 were cup games. It doesn't make for good reading, doesn't it? It really, really doesn't. Remember, we had 24 points in one season under arguably our greatest manager ever. He stuck to what he knew. He was given time. He built the team to play the way he wanted. And when they started, then the rest was history. Back the man. There we go. Finn is in as well. He says he'll bring the glory days again. One hand covering the eyes. Oh, I think he will if he's given time. I genuinely do. Passat is in as well. And Cloud says, I think the biggest problem with backing Amorim would be us spending so much, giving him all he needs to do good, and then he doesn't do good, and then we have the players we don't. Yeah, well, look, that's always the risk you take when you bring in a new manager. And look, I think I go back and look. We'll jump into what Ruben Amorim has said in a few minutes, but look, we've seen this so many times, haven't we, over the last 10 or 15 years. That, United have a new manager, doesn't go quite as well. Change of system, change of tactics. Then we sack the manager a couple of years later. We've got to break the cycle. We really do. Dylan Zinn says, heard something that if United win the Europa League and we're in the UEFA Champions League, Casemiro's wages goes up. Supposedly there are some clauses in certain players where if we do get Champions League football, they do get a pay rise. Yeah, so that is something that I suppose we'll have to take into consideration in the summer transfer window as well. Barry is in. He says, all right, Jack, what's the crack with all these rumours of Euro wanting to leave and not being happy? Any truth to it? I haven't heard an awful lot. I've heard a little bit of the rumours of so on and so forth, but I think it's absolute nonsense, to be quite honest with you. He's been one of our best players this season, and he's suiting the Ruben Amorim system quite well. So I think it's all rumours, to be quite honest with you, more than anything else. But guys, we're going to dive straight into it, and we're going to talk about what Ruben Amorim has said over the last couple of days. And look, he is he under pressure? What that remains to be seen. I think for right now, the big pressure on him is basically what he's been saying the last few days. Obviously, he spoke in the post-match press conference, and he was asked about the form, and he was asked about the I suppose the dwindling mentality within the club. And he says, it's not about the players. I'm talking about myself and the culture in the club. We need to change that. We need to be really strong in the summer and to be brave. If the feeling is still here, we should give the space to a different person. So basically he's saying, He's putting the pressure on himself more than anything else, and saying that if he cannot change the culture and the standards within Manchester United, then maybe he should actually step aside and let somebody else do the job. And look, I understand where he's coming from, and look, these are all very subtle ploys from him, in my opinion, in terms of what he wants to get out of these players, and rile them up a little bit and try and get the best out of them, and that's his job. And look, we've got to be quite honest here, and again, I don't want anyone to think that I'm anti-Amorim or anything, but he hasn't got the best out of these players yet. He really hasn't. He hasn't been getting the best out of this squad. And, the results go to show that. You know what I mean? They really, really do. And he has been speaking to Sky Sports this evening, guys, as well, in the build-up to the game on the weekend. And he said he's embarrassed. He said, "I'm really embarrassed. In 26 games, we have won only 6. Something is wrong in the way we are playing football. Sometimes it's not about how we play. It's the way we face the competition and the way we suffer and get mad because we are losing." He goes on to say as well, I read it all. He's embarrassed. He's embarrassed. And look, he is right. And I think the contrast has been quite clear to see, hasn't it? Within the different competitions that United have played in this season. We've looked really, really good in the Europa League, but when it comes to the Premier League, higher intensity and more physicality, we've looked way off the pace. We look way off the pace, and I think a lot of that could be a mentality thing from these players. When us as fans are speaking that we know we're not going to get relegated and we know we're not going to get into Europe with our league form. So I think naturally. Well, not naturally, it shouldn't be naturally, but are the players saying to themselves, well, the league is done and dusted. I don't want to get injured in a nothing league game, and it means I'm out of the Europa League or whatever the case may be. And it's a damning indictment on these players if that is the case. It really, really is. But I mean, for Ruben Amorim, he's got to do something to try and rile up these players. And Amorim being embarrassed about the results is, it's a pretty strong statement to make. And look, he's made strong statements already this season, saying Manchester United are the worst team in history and Premier League history and so on and so forth. But when we look at the nitty gritty of it, it is a historic low for Manchester United. It really, really is. It's the worst season since 1974 when we got relegated. And thank God for Leicester, Southampton and Ipswich, because if it wasn't for them, we'd be in serious, serious trouble this season. We've endured our worst top-flight season since we got relegated. 17 losses in 36 games and sitting in 16th in the league is just crazy. It really, really is. And again, we're talking about the future of Manchester United, and we're talking about, what needs to be done and where we need to go and how we need to get to where we need to be. And it's going to take a monumental shift in everything we just spoken there about, dynamic and about ability-wise, who we've got in the squad, about mentality, about maybe even tactics. Does Ruben Amorim have to change his tactics? These are all questions that need to be answered. And they need to be answered relatively fast, because if they're not, this time next year, Ruben Amorim won't be at the club if we're in the same position. He just won't. It's as simple as that. I jotted down a couple of points before coming live about maybe why Man United maybe are in the situation that we find ourselves in this season. I'm talking, of course, about the league, Is there an argument there that the Europa League is a distraction? I've heard them, I suppose, excuses being muttered around a little bit. And to be honest with you, I don't really buy them, And I think Amorim has bought into that mindset as well. When people are saying, the Europa League is a distraction because, you're not doing well in the league. And, well, we're not doing well in the league because we're not playing well in the league. It's as simple as that. It has nothing got to do with the Europa League. And I think Amorim emphasised that, winning the Europa League by itself at the end of this season won't mask the club's deeper issues, such as what we just mentioned: culture, standards, real quality within the squad. And, we've spoken about quite in depth about where Manchester United need to get to and why Champions League would get us there quicker. But we've also got to take into consideration what we've currently got within the squad. And, we said that there was going to be a hangover from the Woodward era, the John Murta era, the pre-Ineos era where there was no structure behind the scenes. And while, I think was it 14 players we got off the books last year between contracts coming to an end and, between selling players or whatever the case may be, I think it was a good start. But a good start doesn't mean you have a good finish. You've got to be consistently good throughout the entirety of the race, to reach the finish line and potentially get there as a winner. And it's a huge summer for Manchester United. But again, what I'm saying here is the culture within that squad, there's no other way of putting it, of just lying down and taking it, really, over the course of this Premier League season hasn't been good enough. And you've got to question the mentality when players can turn it on and off so quickly. You can do it in the Europa League. And I understand the quality is different from the Premier League to the Europa League. But to be able to turn it on and off so easily just goes to show a lack of mentality in my mind. It really does. Let's see what people are saying here. We have no scorers, says Chris. Look, I 100% agree there are specific reasons why we're doing bad. But, you look at midfield, you look at defence, you look at the goalkeeper, you look at the wing backs, you look at, decision making within the team. It can all improve. It can all drastically improve. Ben says, should any player down tools in any game? Exactly. Absolutely no way. And that just goes to show maybe how the standards have slipped from what they used to be, more than a decade ago now. Let's see. Lenny Yaro gets injured before the final in 2021. Maguire got injured before the final and we lost, says Dylan. Comments like this is what gets managers fired. It's actually results, I'm afraid, that get managers fired. D says they shouldn't, but again, time and time again, they have at this club. They spit the dummy out, get the manager sacked, new guys come in, and it's crazy. Well, now look, I don't want to draw comparisons with teams of the past under maybe Solskjaer or Ranić or whatever the case may be, because I do think that there is a core of good players within this squad. But again, it's not all about talent, and we seen what Roy Keane spoke about with Bruno Fernandes, and we'll get on to Bruno Fernandes in a moment as well. It's not just about talent, the talent that you have. Talent will only get you so far. You've got to have the right mentality. You've got to want it enough. And I don't think enough of these players do. And maybe some of them are, know that they might be moved on in the summer. Some of them know that their contracts are ending. Some of them have gone through injuries. Some of them are just confidence-based players that can't get a run going together. And I think there's a variety of reasons. I really, really do. As a player, they should be playing to get into the cup final squad. Absolutely, 100%. There is no way to fix it quick. All these pundits are just piling on. Well, look, United are always an easy target. Absolutely, they are. But again, it's there in front of our eyes. And I think, how damning would our maybe assessment of Manchester United be this season if we weren't in the Europa League final? And I think it would be a hell of a lot worse, Now, Amorim himself has cast doubt over his future, hinting at the possibility of stepping down when he says, if I can't fix the culture, it should be somebody else. And look, that has, again, Chris, you're talking there about, maybe pundits and media jumping on the bandwagon and maybe trying to pile some pressure on. And I think this is Amorim just saying, kind of laying down the gauntlet to his players. I am here to change the culture and I will change or I will leave. You know what I mean? And we have seen in the past managers get sacked a long time before an awful lot of players should have got sacked. And again, like I said, if we see a poor start to next season in the first few months, there's going to be absolutely unbelievable pressure on Amorim. And a lot of it comes down to, again, going back to what we said and him being backed in the summer. And how does he get backed in the summer? By getting Champions League football. If you get Champions League football, we go on to all of the things we've said. You can attract better players. You've got more money to spend. And, winning the Europa League could bring in, I think it's a minimum of £80 million, through prize money, gate receipts, sponsorship boosts, all that kind of stuff. However, not getting into the Champions League could lead to over £100 million worth of lost revenue. And again, it goes back to what we've said before about, the drawing out process then of this rebuild, and I think that's where Ruben Amorim is saying and said it in his press conference the other day that, winning the Europa League is not the biggest problem with Manchester United. And he is right. But the quickest way to fix that is to win the Europa League. If you win the Europa League, you're into the Champions League. Got more money, you can attract better players. So while Ruben Amorim is saying it's not the biggest issue at our club, it certainly does go a long way to fixing the issues quicker than without having European football. Now, on the flip side of that, there is a counter argument here. Ruben Amorim has spoken about not getting enough time on the training ground with these players. Okay, now while I do think he should be doing better with the time he has on the pitch or on the training ground, if we don't get European football next year, while there is a loss of revenue, you might be able to attract the best players. Ruben Amorim is going to have a game a week. Now, for somebody who does Manchester United YouTube videos, having one game a week is not good for a YouTube channel. But it's very, very good for Amorim to drill into these players what he wants from them and to try and teach them, the Amorim way. And look, so that is another option there as well, and it is maybe something that that has to be taken into consideration also. So yeah, let me get to some of your comments here, and we'll see what you guys are saying here. Again, smash a like on the video, guys, if you haven't done so already. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel as well. D says, it's going to take 3 or 4 summer windows minimum to sort the team out. Chris says, I'm going to go crazy on Wednesday. It's the... he's talking to Chris there. Danikin says, as a United supporter and a Bulls fan, I feel like I sold my soul in the 90s for Jordan and Ferguson. Now the devil is coming to collect. My God, yeah. And the Bulls haven't won an NBA title since 98, haven't they now? Hyland needs to score more goals, says Pizzad. Absolutely he does. Absolutely he does. If you're worried about results, then you should have hired a caretaker manager that plays a system that these players play. I understand that. But... And we were saying this when Amorim came in. We were all hoping for a Champions League push, for a top 4 finish, for a top 4 push when he came in. When he came in, we were 9th, 10th, maybe. We certainly weren't in the bottom half of the table, I don't think. And we were hoping for, as silly as it sounds now, we were hoping for a top 4 push, and we got the complete opposite. We got a charge towards the... and I understand that, he's bringing in new ideas and new formations, and 100% he should be getting time to do that. But what I'm more disappointed with is the lack of real quality from these players, and the fact that they've struggled so much to take on board what Ruben Amorim is trying to teach them. And look, there are circumstances we can't score goals. We can't score goals, and that's a huge issue, huge concern. And yeah, it's I worry going into the summer transfer window, because we need a striker. We need probably a complete overhaul of our not a complete overhaul of our midfield, but like just looking at that game on the weekend. Like Manu looked lost. I don't know what's after happening to him. Garnacho, in fairness to him, is probably looking our most dangerous player consistently over the last few games. But is he the real solution for the system Amorim is playing? Eriksen is leaving. Casemiro is having a bit of a renaissance. Where's Bruno's best position? Mama Lugarte, I love him in the 6. There are massive question marks there. we need a right wing back. We need another centre back. We need a goalkeeper. We need a lot. We need a lot, and we're not going to get it all this summer, and that's the concern. Let's see. You don't bring in a new manager and a new system and not back him, and then and demand results. No. But again, I think Amorim should get time. I really do. I just thought we would get, why does every other team get a new manager bounce and we never do? Well, we got it with Solskjaer. That was about it. Dylan says, to be honest, I don't blame Amorim. I blame Ineos. They came in and delivered the worst season ever in the Premier League history for us. I wouldn't go as far as blaming them either, to be honest with you. I think they certainly have a part to play in it, as does Amorim, as does Ten Hag, as does the players, as does the coaching staff, as does the physios, as does the masseurs, as does the whoever else is involved. It's all part of this horrible season, to be quite honest with you. Young Sauce is in. Glad to see you're back, brother. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for joining us. D says, should have backed him in January, but they couldn't or wouldn't without or how is any manager supposed to succeed when they get brought into a failing team full of players that are... Now, look, the one thing I would say about the January window gone is that I'm happy for us not to go in and sign players in January if they're not our first choice. Or you're saying, no, we're going to wait until the summer because we can get the players we want in the summer more so than panic buying in January. I'm okay with that, because it means that you're planning for the future, and it means that if you stick by them principles, then over a 4 or a 5 year period, you will see results. And there's nothing worse than panic buying, and we've done it too much over the last decade, where it's nice now to actually see a bit of structure, behind the scenes in terms of who we're scouting and recruiting and so on and so forth. Champions League next year will hurt us too. We will get bounced quickly. Everyone will think we should be competing. Well, see, the thing about it is, Chris, with the Champions League next year is this new format that we've had this year. You can lose a few games and still qualify. And look, I think if Manchester United get to the latter stages of it, you get to a last 16, you never know who you might get. You might end up getting a Leicester team. Before you know it, you're in a quarter-final. Now, I'm not expecting Manchester United to do anything in the Champions League next year. But the further we go, the more money we earn, the more experience these players are getting. There's pros and cons to everything, of course. Alpha says, Glazers and Radcliffe are slowly destroying Man United. Look at what they are doing to the staff, who at the end of the day are trying to earn a day's ends meet, doing the sports, love the club they love. D says, when he came in, we had 12 points from a possible 30. Passat says Garnacho needs to make better pass the ball to other players. D says, if Garnacho is our most dangerous looking player, then that's a massive issue because he's shite. But he has been. He has looked our most dangerous player. Again, we go back to what we've said about him an awful lot is the issue with putting the ball in the back of the net, and we've had that issue with not just him this season. Gilla says, when's the next collab with Tomaldinho? And I hope Lenior Delict are back. Yeah, again, look, I haven't got around to doing a Tuesday night video. I've been so busy with work. I've got a new role in work, and with the kids and stuff like that. So I am hoping now to get back into a swinging routine again. So hopefully we'll get Adam. I might actually see, can we get him on tomorrow night again? I genuinely think if Amorim gets in the players he wants this summer, we get rid of the players deemed not good enough, and a full pre-season will be pushing for top 6 next season, says Brian. I hope you're right, Brian. And again, look, Ruben Amorim didn't want to come in until the end of the season, and this was probably the reason why, because he's not an idiot. He knows coming in here, completely changing structure, systems, formations, mentality, is probably easier to do when you come in with as a pre-season. But in saying that now, again, there are positives to everything, and he now knows who he can trust and who he can't trust, and he can go, right, well, look, I'm not having you, I'll have you, you can jog on, you can go out on loan, whatever the case may be, and this is what I need, Muldoon says, Amorim can turn it around. He needs a proper backing in the summer. The players won't be putting everything into Europe, and we'll have we have to turn up in the league. Cowbell says, Highland, my God, what a debacle. Yeah. As the games go on, I'm less sure he'll be here past the summer, to be quite honest with you. I can't see it. And I like him, and I feel for him. I really do. He's a young kid leading the line for Manchester United, and he has that undue pressure put on him when he never should have had. And that's down to the previous regime, how the club was run. You know, no one there to identify players and get the right players in. And I feel for him. And it's going to cost him his Manchester United career, in my opinion. I don't see him being here beyond the summer, and it is a shame, because he will probably be a player that would go to somewhere back to Italy maybe, or in Spain, and he will have a good career. You know, he might not reach the heights of, winning Champions Leagues or anything like that, but yeah, I feel for him. That's all. Need to be careful pre-season, as we shouldn't be playing a national side in Asia days after the end of the season. Chris says, look at who we didn't have. Ahmad, our goal scorer this season, no amount more of a goal scorer. 10, no Rashford, no Anthony. Yeah, all valid points, yeah. Bruno is not a goal scoring 10. He's a playmaker. Lost Xerxes. Highland is pedestrian. He's fighting with two arms behind his back. I agree. Yeah, you're spot on. You're spot on. But again, it's the manager's way of trying to find out solutions to this, So yeah. We also didn't expect Rashford to shit the bed. That's true. Yeah, that's 100% true. Now, I want to talk about Bruno Fernandes a little bit, guys, because again, the reports about him to Saudi Arabia are just not going away. And the reports have come out suggested that Saudi are looking to have a third and final meeting with Bruno's representatives and basically ask him and ask them what he wants to make a deal happen. And look, again, I bringing it into to tonight's show, I don't think it's something that we should really be overly concerned about, to be quite honest with you. And again, I just kind of wanted to throw it out to you guys a little bit, because it kind of links in with the previous points that we were making, and that is in relation to the summer rebuild and what we can potentially do in the summer. Now, I want to say first off, I do not want to get rid of Bruno Fernandes. Absolutely no way, shape or form do I want Bruno Fernandes to leave Manchester United. However, if he does leave, it would be for an astronomical figure, because Saudi look like they want him more than anyone else, and we could look for 130 to 150 million. Now, what does that do for your rebuild? And straight away your mind, flicks back to Jurgen Klopp selling Felipe Coutinho to Barcelona at the time, and basically the money that was brought in for, I think it was about 140 million, and the money that was brought in for that, financed Alisson, Van Dijk, I think Salah came in for that money as well, and it really sped up the rebuild, is basically what I'm saying. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. If you were looking at it, let's say Bruno Fernandes did come out and say he wanted to leave, which I don't think he would, to be honest with you. What do you guys think would be an acceptable figure for him, for Manchester United to actually sell him? Because if I'm being honest with you, I think if Saudi Arabia come in with £150 million bid for Bruno Fernandes, I think Man United would accept it. I genuinely do. I genuinely do think they would accept it, because of what it would do for them in terms of this rebuild and in terms of trying to fast track it. Now, would we be a lesser team without Bruno? You're damn right we would. Absolutely we would. But on the flip side of that as well, what I would say is that Bruno Fernandes, from what I take from Bruno Fernandes is that, Bruno Fernandes, after signing a new contract with us, on the basis of what Ineos sold him and what we're trying to do going forward, and Ruben Amorim coming in now and so on and so forth, and Bruno's pivotal to what we're trying to do. I don't see Bruno leaving now, to be honest with you. Why would he go now? And why would he go to Saudi Arabia? Bruno Fernandes, in my eyes, in my opinion, is not a he's not going to be swayed by money, I don't think. And I hope I'm right in saying this. I might be wrong, but I hope I'm right in saying it. He looks like a player who wants to win trophies. And and opposition fans will go, well, what the fuck is he doing staying at United? So, but you know what I mean. Why would he go to Saudi Arabia at this stage in his career? I just don't see it happening. But again, I wanted to throw that out to you guys. What do you think would be an acceptable figure for Manchester United to say yes to a Saudi bid? Let me know in the comment section what you think. Brian says, can see Bruno loves United and probably doesn't want to leave, but could you blame him if he wanted to go? And look, that's a good point, Brian. You know, both points you make there. You know, he is a player by all accounts that loves Manchester United, and you see what it means to him, you know, and you see how disappointed he is when we lose. He's the captain of Manchester United. But again, reports had suggested that he would be on 1.4, is it 1.4 or 1.6 million a week? And that's tax-free in Saudi Arabia. That is, I mean, your great-great-grandchildren would be set up for life with that kind of money, you know. And it is hard to turn down. It's hard to turn down. It really, really is. And I think it's hard. It would be hard for Manchester United to, and look, United would probably say to Bruno, if an offer came in for 150 million, for example, United would probably go to Bruno, look, we have to accept this, but you don't have to go if you don't want to, you know. But yeah, I think 150. I think 150 is the price for me, to be honest with you. If I trusted the ownership to spend the money wisely, says Cowell. Well, look, I keep going back to this. They've had one summer transfer window, okay, and the players that they brought in, and I'm repeating myself here, of course, but the players that they brought in last summer have been our best players have been some of our best players this season. De Ligt has been up there with one of our best players this season. Mazraoui has probably been one of our best players. He has been our best player this season, nearly. Lenny Yoro has been absolutely fantastic this season. Manuel Ugarte has been good, hasn't been consistent enough. And then, of course, there was Joshua Zirkzee, who had a bad start and then was getting going. And then in January, they bring in Patrick Dorgu, who was needed. And for the first maybe 4 or 5 games, gave us great balance, but again needs to get his consistency levels up. And brought in Aidan Heaven, who looks like an absolute weapon of a signing. So I trust them for now, and I trust them until I don't trust them, if that makes sense, because they haven't had a bad transfer window yet, in my opinion. Now, again, I go back to what we've said about January. January was quiet because hopefully it means we can go in the summer for top targets and players that we can actually get, you know, to improve the squad, you know. D says, if Bruno wants to leave, then I do not blame him. But if we have to lose him, then it's going to cost whoever it is. Jonathan says, if an offer came in for 120 million, I would sell him. D says, to Saudi, 155 million, not a penny less. Barry says, I think I'd need 200 million for him. Yes, I'm greedy, but they have the money, and replacing Bruno wouldn't be cheap. But I don't want to lose him. Well, that's the thing. And Oshin says 175 million, you know. And the thing about it is, you know, replacing Bruno Fernandes would not be cheap. It really, really wouldn't. But you've got to take into consideration what you could get for, let's say it was 175 million. You could sign, realistically, you could sign four top players for that kind of money. You know what I mean? You really could. You really could. So it does all have to be juggled. But again, I don't see Bruno Fernandes leaving Manchester United. I just can't. And I hope he doesn't. I would rather us generate, I mean, Bruno Fernandes for 150 million. Just get into the Champions League 2 seasons in a row, and there's your 150 million. And Bruno gets to stay. And, I mean, the ideal scenario here is that in 2 or 3 years' time, and again, it seems so bloody far away. Not the 2 or 3 years' time, but what I'm about to say now seems so far away. Is Bruno Fernandes lifting the Premier League? You know what I mean? It can happen quickly. It depends. If things go right, it can. I mean, Liverpool didn't get into the top four, did they, a couple of seasons ago? And had a really, really bad season. Kind of came strong late in the season. And 2 years later, they won the league. It can happen. It can happen. You know, Leicester City were actually pretty much where we are now at this stage of the season. And the following season, they went on to win the league. So it can happen, is what I'm saying. Will it happen? It's highly unlikely. Cowbell says, I wouldn't sell him because I don't trust management to spend the money wisely. Brian says, given his age, if anything over 120 million comes in, the club will find it hard to turn it down. Is these bids midway through the season distracting the player? We had bids for Garnacho. No, Bruno, the last 2 games been poor. No, I don't think so. No. I get your point on top targets, but if those include Delap, well, that's a good point. That is a good point. And I didn't bring it into tonight's show, but there has been a lot of reports today suggesting that United are leading the race for him, and that Champions League football is what it's going to take to sign Delap from Ipswich. So yeah. But another player we got to talk about, guys, is Kobbie Mainoo real quick, and this again links back into what it's all a common theme about the summer transfer window. I mean, how important is it to back Ruben Amorim in this summer transfer window? Because we obviously know what's going on the pitch with the league, you know, with Manchester United this season, but he's such a specific manager in terms of his structure and his style of play that you've got to back him, and you've got to back him long term. And we're talking about Kobbie Mainoo here. Like, Kobbie Mainoo last season, you know, in his breakout season was unbelievable, but he looks a little bit lost under Ruben Amorim the last few weeks and months. He's getting substituted an awful lot more. Is Ruben Amorim struggling to maybe figure out where the best position for him is? Or is Kobbie Mainoo struggling to play the role that Ruben Amorim wants him to play? I think there could be a little bit of both. Now, Kobbie Mainoo is young, guys, and he has bucket loads of potential and a really, really high ceiling. But my concern is there has been rumours about selling Kobbie Mainoo in the summer. And if you go and sell somebody like Kobbie Mainoo and it doesn't work out for Ruben Amorim, and you bring in another manager and change the whole system again, all of a sudden Kobbie Mainoo would have been an unbelievable signing for you. So it's a very fine balancing act that they've got to get right this summer. Kobbie Mainoo has to improve under Ruben Amorim, and in this system he does. It's quite clear that he does. But that doesn't mean you go and sell him. And I do think Manchester United have been working on getting a new deal done for him as well. So I do hope that happens, because you got to be building your team around young, impressionable players like this, you know, that you can mould to whatever way you want for the future. And I think Kobbie Mainoo certainly is a player like that. I really do. Yeah, but that's the big concern. You know what I mean? That's the big concern. I like Mainoo in that number 10. My big concern about, if I was Mainoo, now again, I don't know if this can be done, but if I was Mainoo, as soon as the season was over, I would just be working on my mobility as much as I possibly could. He needs to work on his mobility. He needs to get around the pitch quicker. He needs to get a bit of pace into his legs, because he does lack a little bit of pace. He certainly does. But he makes up for it in turn, and again, this will come with experience. He will make up for it with intelligence, you would hope, as he gets older, where he knows how to be in the right position, where he doesn't have to make a 40-yard run on a defensive transition, and he can be in the right position when the player breaks down. And likewise, then going into an attacking transition. So I think for the moment he needs to work on his mobility, and he needs to work on getting that mobility up, getting around the pitch quicker, you know, opening up his legs a little bit. And, you know, I think if he does that over the summer and comes back a more mobile player, you know, I do think we will see vast improvements in him. But by God, he's got the quality and the ability, and he's got an eye for goal as well. Goal against Lyon, of course, is the most recent one. So again, look, this may sound very negative, but, you know, we're talking about Kobbie Mainoo here thriving under Ruben Amorim. He hasn't done that. And again, there are a lot of reasons for it. Change of system, change of manager, change of tactics, change of, you know, ideals, but also the fact that he's young and he's not going to have an awful lot of consistency at, what is he, 19, 20? Is that all he is? You know what I mean? So there are, of course, mitigating circumstances there. Now, I want to talk a little bit, guys, about one more midfielder, and that midfielder is Casemiro. There has been, it's been confirmed today that Carlo Ancelotti will leave Real Madrid after the last La Liga game, so he won't be in charge for the Club World Cup for Real Madrid. He goes straight into the Barcelona job. Xavi Alonso is taking over at Real Madrid. We wish him the worst of luck. And yeah, reports have been pretty steady all day in relation to Casemiro, and Fabrizio Romano has been speaking about it as well, and he says on the matter that Carlo Ancelotti has already made initial plans to discuss Casemiro's return as part of the Brazil squad. The relationship has always been excellent, and Ancelotti wants more leaders to be part of the squad, including Manchester United's midfielder. Now, what does this mean for Casemiro? First of all, Casemiro doesn't have to go back. We know Casemiro, don't we? He will go back and he will play for Brazil again. Of course he will. To be honest with you, it's annoying as a Manchester United fan, because we've seen Casemiro now, start to really improve in the second half of the season. He's trimmed down an awful lot, and he's been the difference maker over a lot of games for us under Ruben Amorim, or some of the, I won't say a lot of the games, because the majority of them we lost, but the games that we've got positive results, Casemiro tends to be a positive to come out of it as well. So going back and playing international football at Casemiro's age, it's just annoying. It really, really is annoying. And he probably will go back and play, to be quite honest with you. I hope he doesn't. But it does mean that we've got to look after him a bit more. We've just got to look after him a bit more, wrap him up. And again, it would have probably been the ideal scenario for Casemiro. Now, look, he wants to play in Europe. He wants to play in the Champions League. That's where he made his name. But Casemiro playing one game a week next season, if we don't have European football, would be of huge benefit to somebody of his age and somebody of his stature and so on and so forth. And I do think it would be a benefit to him in his career in terms of trying to prolong it. So within the space of a week, Casemiro might be back playing for Brazil and have guaranteed European football for next season. So it's, let's see what happens. But guys, I do want to bring to your attention as well, finally, we've got one more piece to talk about, and then we will, I just want to mention a live event that's coming up at the moment. On the 21st of May, which is Wednesday week. I think you all know what's happening Wednesday week. Manchester United are playing in the Europa League final. I am going to be doing a live watch-along event with a number of other different channels. The Cult of Cantona, who I've just seen is in the live chat there now. Paul, and we're also doing it with the Green Devils podcast. We've got a live watch-along event in the Grand Social in Dublin. Tickets are on sale. They're €30. We do have some surprise guests on the night. We have a little somebody from Après Match. For the older people in the live chat, you can see it live on the screen there now. We've got Gary Cook from Après Match, who's going to be involved with it as well. And we've got a number of different surprise guests on the night as well. So if it's something you want to do, if you want to come and do, anybody that's in Ireland or around the area, if you want to come and do a live watch along with us, watch the Man United game with a load of Reds, have a few beers, be entertained. A couple of comedians are going to be there as well. Then please do get involved. thecultofcantona.com. You can go and get your tickets there, but I will have it all over my socials as well over the next few days as well. It will be live streamed on my channel as well, so don't worry. I will be live for the Europa League final one way or another. I will be live for the Europa League final on this channel, so you don't have to worry. I'm not abandoning you. You know what I mean? It was one of the tick box exercises. Right? We have to get this live streamed, so we will be live streaming. It'll be live streamed here for you to watch as well. But I'd love for you to come down if you can. It's a great charity. I'm after forgetting the bloody name of the charity, but it's for families who have lost children. I can't think of the name of it, but I will have it on my social media. It's an absolutely brilliant cause as well. So there's no money being made or anything like that. It's all going to charity. So if you do want to come down, have a few beers, Féileacán, there we go. Paul is in. Féileacán. So yeah, it's if you want to come down, have a few beers with a load of Reds, cheer on United. Hopefully we'll all be jumping around the Grand Social together, and be entertained with a few comedians and maybe a couple of ex-players. It's been worked on at the moment. Please do come down. thecultofcantona.com. Get your tickets there. But finally, guys, before we finish up, I want to talk a little bit about a certain somebody in Anthony. All right, and we'll finish off with a positive, because it is a positive. Anthony has been, gaining some suitors throughout Europe, and again, Atletico Madrid have been highly tipped as one of the players. I've even seen Barcelona being linked with him over the last couple of days, but Atletico Madrid seem to be the main players so far, with reports coming out of Spain, and supposedly they are planning to hold talks with Manchester United in the coming few days around a potential deal for Anthony. So as I said, players coming in is vitally important, but also players leaving is going to be just as important, to be quite honest with you. And Anthony, I think this season is nearly over now for in La Liga as well, but I think if we had said 4 or 5 months ago, could we look for 40 million for Anthony, we would have got laughed out of the room by everyone. But now 40 million seems like a bit of a snip, considering what he's been doing. So look, I do think it's a good thing, and hopefully he can finish the season strong, and we can get some money in the door, because again, like I said, guys, we're going to have to sell players, to build the pot to go out and sign players as well. You would love, obviously, getting Champions League football, getting 100 million euro in the door. 40 million for Anthony, 40 million for Rashford, 25 million for Sancho. That's 205 million that I just mentioned there in the space of 10 seconds, and then you're not talking about, getting wages off the books as well, and so on and so forth. So there is money to be made, guys. There is money to be made, but we've got to be smart, and we've got to make sure we do it correctly. And let's hope we can attract the players that we can. Austin says Gary Cook looks awful like Casemiro. Looking forward to it, says Brian. Féileacán, there's a fodder on that. Féileacán. Okay, Féileacán. My apologies. There's 13 years of Irish coming out in me there now. What a plug. Plug stronger than Wayne Rooney's hairdresser. There you go. Danikin says sell. That's in relation to Anthony. Cowbell says the same. D says 60 million. Oh, you'd be doing well getting 60 million, so we would. All of the players that are currently on loan, he's the only one that looks most likely to be sold. Mandis, I know. Spain is his level, says Oshin, but there's no money in Spain. 2 great points in one comment there. But again, well, I think there is money in Spain. Like, you remember, did an Atletico Madrid spend 120 million on João Felix or something like that? So, there is money there. There might not be money in the likes of Real Betis and stuff like that, you know what I mean? But if you're talking about Atletico Madrid coming in, surely you could get 40 million for him. But look, we'll see. I'm going to the Europa League final, says Passat, to watch Man United win. Good man. Remember, 86 million has to go to previous signings. It does. So that's why we need to sell. But guys, look, great first live back in I think this is about a week. I'll be back again tomorrow night. I may have Adam on, Tom Aldino. We'll see. If not, I'll be going live myself. And of course, then we have the podcast back on Wednesday night as well, with all the crew as usual. I do appreciate you watching and listening and contributing in the live chat, guys. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. I hope you have a great rest of your night, whatever's left of it. But I'll chat to you tomorrow. Have a great evening. Take care. Good luck.